Professor, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Let's start with your reason, first of all, of conducting this survey.
Yes, thank you, Tony, and it's nice to be on your show. So we are a research unit that do research on the economics of excisable products, and we've focused very much on tobacco and alcohol in the past. And we are specifically focused on public health. We are not aligned to the tobacco industry. We want to be independent. We want to do independent research. And as the lockdown was continuing, we saw that there had become more and more newspaper reports about illicit trade and so on. So the reason why we did this was we actually just want to find out. We wanted to find out from smokers specifically, how did they respond to the changes in the retail environment where they could not be buying cigarettes anymore? Did they stock up? Did they quit, etc.?
Okay, you had more than 16,000 respondents as well. And one of the things I was always curious about when it came to this ban on smoking, would it lead to some people actually quitting, you know, the habit of smoking itself? What did you find in your research?
Yes, and that's the positive side. So we asked smokers, did you try to quit? And approximately 40% of smokers indicated that they have tried to quit during the lockdown period. And approximately 40% of those 40%, in other words, 16% of the total number of respondents indicated that they were actually successful. A small percentage of them indicate that they would want to return back to smoking once the lockdown is over. But the vast majority, approximately 88% of those 16% of smokers that indicated that they have been successful at quitting indicate that they want to remain quit. From a public health point of view, that is very, very positive. If one does the mathematics, it's approximately between 800,000 and 1 million smokers who have now given up smoking because of the lockdown. And that's the strong positive that we take from this particular survey.
Okay, so before the lockdown and before the ban on smoking because of COVID-19, 81% of smokers smoked brands produced by the multinational companies. We all know these brands. But after lockdown, 63% of smokers reported smoking brands by local producers. Who are these local producers? And then secondly, where were they finding these cigarettes? How were they acquiring them?
Okay, so the local producers are mainly attached to a group called FITA, the Free Trade Independent Tobacco Association. Some of the bigger brands, if I may name them on television, are Gold Leaf Tobacco, Carnalinks, Best Tobacco Company, Amalgamated Tobacco, and a number of other companies. Some of these companies are fairly well established. They're small, but they have grown very substantially in terms of their sales over this period. And they've been able to very substantially increase their market share at the expense of the established multinational companies, of which BAT, of course, is the biggest one. In terms of where people buy their cigarettes, before the lockdown, of course, people would typically buy their cigarettes at formal retail outlets as well as spaza shops. Those two categories approximately account for more than 80% of the retail outlets. We see that after the lockdown, very few cigarettes have been sold through formal retail outlets in line with the regulations. However, we see that there's been a very substantial increase in very informal type of outlets. Outlets that did not actually exist before the lockdown. For instance, WhatsApp groups, through friends and family, through acquaintances that are categorized as essential workers, etc. We also see that the spaza shops have greatly increased their share of the market in terms of the retail outlets. So what we see is a huge shift in the market structure from a more formal retail outlet into the more informal retail outlets.
Okay, talk to us about price increase. If you can, within 2 weeks, the prices are going up every 2 weeks about by 50%. And obviously the rich, in your research, you found that the richer people are paying more. Explain that to us.
Okay, so the way that we did this is we ran the survey from the 29th of April, which was just before the level 5 decrease to level 4 lockdown, and we ran it through to the 11th of May. That was a period of 13 days. And using a technique that we call econometrics, we were able to then estimate what was the daily increase in the prices that people have reported to us during the period that they were completing this questionnaire. And we find that on a daily basis, the price the prices that have been reported increased by 4.4% per day over that period. We cannot say anything what happened to the prices before the 29th of April because we were not surveying that period. But over that 13-day period, we found literally that there's been an increase of approximately 50% in the price of cigarettes over that period, suggesting that the market had become completely unstable, that smokers were becoming very, very desperate during that time period and were willing to pay incredibly high prices for their cigarettes. We cannot comment about what happened since the 11th of May because our survey closed on that particular date.
Okay. Now, Prof, lastly, just a quick one. Illicit tobacco, illicit cigarettes, surely they're detrimental to one's health, are they?
Tony, all cigarettes are detrimental to one's health. I don't think we can get away from that.
Yeah.
Even if you buy a very, very good brand, those cigarettes are potentially going to kill you if you smoke enough of them over a long enough period of time. So to say that some cigarettes are worse than others.
But what I mean, Prof, is that surely there must be, if a guy somewhere is making his own cigarettes or that type of thing, you still have to be very careful what you buy, on the black market at the moment still.
Absolutely. And in the comments that our respondents gave, and about 5,000 people made comments, and my colleague actually categorized all those comments, we see that there's a lot of anger amongst smokers where they were saying, I want to buy my normal brand, I can't buy my normal brand, and now I have to buy some other brand that I don't know. It doesn't taste like my normal brand, and it might be even worse for me than what my normal brand is. The fact of the matter is all cigarettes are harmful, so I think we just need to keep that in the back of our minds.
Okay, true. Very good point. That was Professor Corné van Walbeek, the Director of the Research Unit on the Economics of Excisable Products from the University of Cape Town.